So we're just done training and tough.
Yeah, it was tough. Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah, Peter's a savage.
Peter Doyle visiting a real savage.
Even when he's going easy on me, he's a savage.
No, I know. I've been that soldier many times, actually, yeah. Actually, he straightened out a lot of my training previously because when I was going up to Rogers Academy to do a lot of competition training, which is black and brown belt, it got real, not that it got easy because it was really hard. It was myself, say, Marco Conroy and Roger a lot of time and a couple of other lads. But we got used to each other a little bit. And then Peter came in and kind of gave us an awful hard time one time, and it just kind of changed. It was great, you know, it was good. Yeah, really good. See you guys.
Yeah,
so let's talk mindset. So some of the guys are going to Dublin International next week, so about 6 or 7 of them. And I think, like I was saying to a few of them last week, I put none of those 3 questions up on the board over there, right? What do I want? How much do I want it? And what am I willing to do to get it? Which is like always kind of a lot of the time what people come back to in sports psychology. Like, so, okay, do I want to just compete? Or do I want to win?
Yeah.
If I want to win, am I willing to put in the additional hours of training? Am I willing to put in the strength and conditioning? And what am I willing to do to get it? Like, what am I willing to sacrifice? Like, in my life? I'm willing to sacrifice stuff like that. But I thought I'd talk to you because you're quite successful in competition. Don't be embarrassed. It's all good. What's your hints?
So I was always very disciplined in like planning out everything all the time. Lots of like spreadsheets for the big events. And I find that really helped me. I would have like the day of the comp, all of the days leading up to the competition, or say weeks, there would be like plan, right, I want to train X number of times per week, I want to do X number of conditioning sessions, I want to make sure I get these rest days, drink this much water, eat this much protein, and once I planned it all out like that, I found myself a lot calmer because I kind of knew how each week was going to go, and I would plan out each week then in more detail on a Sunday. So that's like, I know we have that written up on the board, but what is it? It's like proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
What I have written on the board for this month is proper passing prevents piss poor performance, because it's guard passing month. But like the big thing for me a lot of times is guys, what you like, similar to what you were saying, no idea like what they're going to do in that week. Never mind what we're going to do in that like 6 weeks. It's like, how are you training this week? It's like, oh well, I'm going to see how it goes.
You got to take responsibility for your training and your progression. Like, you as a coach can't babysit everybody. Like, you know, people need to be motivated. You can't be giving them piggybacks to the competition. Like, they have to take responsibility for their weeks. Like, we're all adults, so it's the boring stuff, unfortunately, that wins you the comps. It's like the planning, the reps, all of the training days. That's what I think personally. It's all in the planning, and then after that, all you have to do is just show up ready to train. So you're not coming in like dehydrated, haven't eaten like 15 grams of carbs that day, or like a bowl of soup or something, with no sleep, and maybe some people are still drinking throughout the prep. I don't think you have to exclude alcohol altogether, but I definitely don't think you should be letting it impact your training.
Yeah, and actually I was talking to somebody about that, because someone I know who's really successful, who I definitely can't mention when I'm going to say this, is like out on the piss the week before.
Yeah.
But his thing is like, I don't train on a Sunday, and like, so I go out for a few, not out on the piss necessarily, like, but he goes out for a few beers and he enjoys himself. He eats pizzas and even like when he's doing like competitions that really matter, because to him it's like, that's my relaxation time. That's my downtime. I enjoy doing it. I go out maybe to a movie. I might have a glass bottle of wine with my girlfriend, and then and he doesn't really like exclude alcohol, so he doesn't, and he's super successful internationally, right? Versus, I think some people who need to switch off and go into a camp mentality of like, I need to diet and I need everything to be right, so I feel like I sacrifice.
Well, it's about mindset. So like that person is more relaxed going into comp if they know that they've done these set of things. Your other friend is relaxed going into comps because he's like taking his downtime and his relaxation.
Yeah.
But like I started monitoring my recovery now, and the days that I feel shit, I have data that tells me my recovery was 10%.
You're using a Whoop, just before everybody.
So I started using a Whoop because I'm training here now and in a functional fitness gym as well in near my house. So like I'm training twice a day, a lot of the days during the week, and I know that you don't agree with that. And I know that my physio doesn't agree with that. But the most important thing is that I think it's good.
Yeah.
So I'm monitoring my recovery, and now my sleep scores have gone up, and I have more energy, and I'm like motivated to do the things that it's like somebody described. The coach in the other gym described it as gamification of like your recovery essentially. So you're getting like more points and a higher score. That's helped me a lot. But what else did you have there? You said, what do I want? So what do I want? I want to win the Europeans. Like, how much do I want it? That's a good question, because like maybe it's just a little pipe dream. Wouldn't it be nice to win the Euros? Like, but you have to go all in. Like.
Yeah. I think a lot of times people set things like that for themselves.
Yeah.
And something I've had a chat with, actually with another coach before, was he was talking about some of these guys going, I'm going to the Euros this year, and he said, well, hold on, you haven't even gone to a national tournament.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing is what my old Thai boxing coach used to say is you want to win by gimmick. So if you're going in doing like backspinning kicks all the time in your training, for example, for Thai boxing, and you're saying, I'm going to knock the guy out. And it's like, no, if you're going to knock the guy out, you're aiming to win by luck. Whereas if you say to yourself, I'm going to do 5 hard rounds with this dude and I'm going to prevail on top, now you're working towards the goal, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times people say, okay, I want to do this. It's like, no, that's not a goal, that's an aspiration.
Yeah.
So that's not achievable.
We have a saying in medicine, horses, not zebras. So like, horses are like the common things, the basic things. I think that's what you're more likely to win with than zebras, like the flying X, Y, or Z. And I think, most of the time when you see people and they've won a match, in the first 15 seconds with a flying whatever, the reality is the other guy is probably really, really skilled. You just caught him at a bad moment.
Yeah.
Like, you're not necessarily going to get that every time, and I personally don't want to take that risk and stuff it. I like to stick with this, the simple stuff that I know works.
Yeah.
But that's just my game. It's not.
I think it's most good people's games. If you look at it, the really, really successful guys, and I think a lot of times when people look at, I suppose we're getting a little off mindset, but this is still mindset, I guess, for what to train for and what to do.
Yeah.
When you look at the guys who have those special moves, so I'm thinking about someone I was going to say my generation, but I was still in my 30s when the Mendes brothers started berimboloing, so when berimbolo became the big thing. Mm-hmm. The reason that they berimboloed wasn't because they weren't good at the other things. The reason they were berimboloing to try and win matches was because of how close everybody else is in technique, so they needed a new skill to break out. So you got a breakout skill. So a lot of those things are like breakout skills.
Yeah.
Where it's we're in World War I trench warfare, everybody's kind of even, and then somebody invents the tank. And it's
you're trying to, I guess, that's a better way of thinking of it.
Yeah, that's the kind of way I look at it. But again, that's, to bring it back to mindset, is a lot of times people think, that's what I need to win by, I need to win by special move.
Yeah.
But you don't, you need to stick to the basics. Mm-hmm. And if you watch the guys who are winning tournaments on the regular, takedown or guard pull, sweep, back take, mount,
exactly.
choke, back take, choke. Yeah.
I'd love to win a match by flying something.
I wouldn't, because I'd injure myself.
Yeah, probably
That's why.
I'd probably break my arm. But so what?
And the final question is it's how much do I want it? I guess. What would your if you were asking that question to somebody now, what would the answer you think you'd want to hear?
So I've had to stop focusing on winning the comp as the ultimate goal, because I was putting too much pressure on myself, and I was getting frankly really stressed coming up to comps, and it was affecting my performance, because instead of being calm going into it, I was up to 90, and like I think that affected my performance. So now I'm focusing on performing to the best of my ability, and like if that means I win, that's great. So how much do I want it? I want to make sure that I just perform my best, and I want that more than anything. I just want to walk away knowing that I did my absolute best, and if I lost, the other person was just better than me. Like that's what I want. And then, you know, if you get the gold medal, great. But if I focus on that, I just like spiral.
Yeah. And then the last question is, what am I willing to do to get it? And I think this is what people struggle with.
Yeah.
Like for me, like we touched on it about like alcohol or drink or whatever. But like, a lot of times people they want to train, they want to do it, but they're not willing to not go out with their friends. They're not willing to like sacrifice that, or even just to, as I say, I was talking to a fella, he was like, to go to a party or to go to a nightclub and not drink was like alien to him.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but like, okay, we're talking about balance, like, okay, you can do that.
Yeah.
But like, he's talking about drinking.
Yeah.
Like, he's talking about like going on the bathroom.
I think if
you just can't do it.
I think if they're there, there are stages of like making a change in your life. And if you're there, if you're at that stage, you're not there. Like, I think if you can't sacrifice binge drinking every weekend, like, you're probably not there for competition.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be thinking about your health, and you need to be disciplined, and you need to trust your coach, and like take your rest days when you need them, but you need to show up for training. Like, and you can't show up for training if you're absolutely like, if I went out on a big drink, a big night out, I'd be hungover for like 3 days after.
Yeah, I'm 45 in a couple of months, so for me it's about a week of a hangover now. I think like every 5 years you add an extra day to your hangover.
But like, it affects my mental health as well. Like, so I become like, I'm not myself, so it's not for me. But yeah, you know, it's hard to talk to people that can't give up those nights out. But then you have to balance things with your family as well, and you know, your other commitments. You don't, like you told me before, when you leave training, like you leave training at the door of the gym.
Yeah.
You're not going home talking about it, thinking about it, like letting
I think that's the point, that if you're going home and you're worrying about it, I think we've all had those moments in the car where you're on your way home about a sweep that you didn't get or a submission you got caught in. You're kind of like, But I say it's related to the coaching my kids. Actually, is where I started doing it, but I started to do it for myself as well. It's like we call it the car door rule. As soon as the car door shuts, training's over. We're done. We're on our way home. And we do it the opposite way around as well. So as soon as the car door shuts on the way out the door to training, home is over. So that we're not carrying our home life into the thing.
You're talking about with your parenting, like for the kids.
But
because you're their coach.
But the same even for myself. So like what happened, what definitely the worst points in my training are the points at which I'm still bothered about my performance on the way home, right? Which is fine once in a while, but the worst experiences I've had in competition is where I was bothered about how I performed for days, weeks, months after I performed. Like, and that was miserable. It's a miserable existence. You don't enjoy your training then. You're constantly thinking about your next thing. So to be able to shut your door on that is
that's discipline as well. That's like mental exercise. So your head, your body needs to be in the right place. Your head needs to be in the right place. So are you willing to practice like mental discipline as well? Like maybe do your meditation. Like I know Nathan says he meditates every morning, and his mindset is like fairly bulletproof. Nathan Kelly. So like, are you willing to, you know, take that time to make sure that when you arrive on the day of the competition, that everything is healthy? That you haven't gone to the extreme for anything.
I think you'll always dig into your reserves, right? When the shit hits the fan, when you're really fatigued, or then you know there's one point or there's a scramble, and your reserves can either be the see you guys. The reserves can either be I've been here before and I've got lots of rounds in the tank, but that same reserve can also be, God, I haven't done enough. And if you
like, she feels strong. She feels better than me. You want to get to that point and like fire light in your belly, and you're like,
no, I'm
this
not
is my
giving
medal.
this one. I'm not giving this one up. No.
I went into my weight category at the Euros, and I won my first match, and then I definitely didn't win the mental game for my second match because I know I had the skill, and then I was fit, but I came second in my division, and I remember like talking to you on the phone, and I was like, I'm so angry about like not winning, and you were like, a few weeks ago you were like, I don't even deserve like my brown belt. Now you're like, I can't believe I only got a silver medal at the Euros. And I was like, I ran over to the open weight category desk and signed up. And then I was like, do you know what? Actually, let's be real here. Like, I got a silver medal at the Euros. You know, that's pretty good. Anything after that is just a bonus. I went into the open weight category like so relaxed.
Yeah.
And I just performed better than I've ever performed. I did like, it was just great. And I remember the final, and like I remember the moment that I realised it was like 45 or a minute left or something, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to win like a gold medal at the Euros. And then I looked down at her and I was like, you're not fucking taking my gold medal. And I just went bananas. But that's mindset, like that's not.
Yeah. I remember coming out of maybe it might be an Irish mindset, I don't know, but I remember coming out of a tournament that I won and got a gold medal in, and a friend messaged me, you know, someone I would respect a lot, and he was like, how'd you do? And I was like, look, it wasn't very hard. And he went, you just won black belt gold.
Yeah.
And you're complaining. You're basically running yourself down. Like you're saying like, look, you know, it wasn't very, the best guys didn't show up, so I won gold. It was like, you didn't show up. And I'd say that to all people all the time. People turn up and go like, look, especially for people who win the default bronze or a default silver, they go, yeah, look, I lost. I'm like, you beat the guys on the couch. Mm-hmm. And that is the thing. Yeah. And you brought yourself to the tournament, and you went in and you gave it your best shot. Yeah. There's a big difference between showing up, having not trained, and still collecting a default gold, like, or a default bronze, or whatever it is. But like the concept of like showing up prepared and ready, and having done your camp and being right, win or lose, then you're okay, right? You've fulfilled your end of the bargain, I think, like, you know.
But also like that mentality of saying like, you know, I didn't get to show my A game today. That's what makes you good. Like that constant pushing of yourself. Like even when you win the gold, you're a bit like, you know, that could have been a bit better today. Like, you know, that's just the way we are. Like,
yeah, I remember that was my first black belt. No, my first IBJJF gold. It wasn't my first black belt gold. My first IBJJF gold was the Dublin International Open. Just before COVID, 2019.
Yeah.
So I've been out with surgery and everything like that, and I came back in. I said, right, okay, look, it is what it is. Let's have a go and let's get in. And I've done a good preparation and stuff like that. But I went there, I beat the guy like less than 90 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, you know, I came over, it was nice. And then of course I'm stepping up the podium and I'm going, this doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. And it had been a while since I stood on the top of the podium, a good long time. Yeah. But I was like, this doesn't feel like that.
Maybe there's something in that as well, though. Like, you know, maybe because I remember when I was a blue belt, I was great when I was competing at blue belts. Like, I love looking back at my videos and everything. And but like, it got to the point where I was like, great, I won that one.
Yeah.
And then if I lost, it was like, oh, like. The world is over.
The world is,
everything is, you know, and then I was like, I need to like look at this now because this is not healthy. So
yeah. There's something, I think there's something in it, but like I think it does, like there are interrelated mindsets in as much as like, probably in the same way that people are described as perfectionists. I don't think anybody would ever describe me as a perfectionist, like, you know, not would ever turn around and go that, but people would definitely describe me as like kind of obsessive about certain things. Yeah. Where they go, right, okay, when you get the bit between your teeth, you know, it's very difficult to stop you from thinking about anything else. But that same bit between your teeth that happens in for positive is also a thing. It's a force for good. It's a spiral for a bad as well. But so when you get the bit between your teeth and you think to yourself, yeah, I'm going to be really successful at this. When you aren't successful at it, now it's almost like the exact opposite of that, like, you know, obsession. It's like, you know,
and you can't do that because, like,
it's very unhealthy.
I'd like, you know, you'd end up like grieving a loss. Like, like, but now, you know, and like, you know, the day is over. You need to move on and be present in the moment. But like that obsession thing, like David Goggins says that motivation is BS. He's like, you can't be motivated. Motivation wanes. You need to be obsessed, like obsessed with coming down to training.
And disciplined.
And disciplined. And my favorite, like, say, I don't know if you call it a camp, going up to a competition, is always when the training has been horrific, and then you arrive on the day of the competition and you're like, that was much easier than like those 10 rounds I put in with like Nathan, Sean and Amanda last week. Yeah. That's like, you know, train hard, like fight easy.
Yeah.
Or maybe you might shed like a few tears or bleed or like nearly knock yourself out. But that's my favourite kind of camp. Yeah. And you're still kind of fresh after the comp.
Yeah, I think so. Like, look, I mean, it's everybody I think has to learn this for themselves in some way. You have to kind of go through it, and I think especially the more, I'm not saying lazy people or pig-headed people or anything like that. People who are kind of like, no, I'm going to do it my own way, and then eventually kind of arrive probably always at the same conclusion. Everybody just goes, oh, do you know what? I either haven't been working enough or I've been doing the wrong things, and I should have listened to those guys who went before. Mm-hmm. But like, there's a learning curve in it, like where you have to experience it for yourself. I think where you go and you show up and you go, actually, I know what they were talking about, but I had to feel it for myself before I actually went, oh yeah.
You'd love to transfer all of your knowledge onto the more kind of junior belts as they start competing, but like you just end up kind of preaching to them, and their eyes just glaze over, like, and you know, but then on the day they're
try coaching them.
On the day, then they're like, you know, I know they're trying to take it on, but you can't until you. And everybody's personal experience is different. Like, it's like the guy that likes to go out for a few drinks once a week versus the guy or the girl that has to cut everything out. Yeah. Like, everybody's different. So,
it's a different experience for everybody. But like, broadly speaking, I think most people, the strongest mindsets that I look at, they have actually like one kind of thing in common, and that is definitely like the discipline in training. Mm-hmm. So whether they're that type of person who's really relaxed, really easygoing, or whether they're somebody who's really like hyper-focused, Excel spreadsheety, kind of, you know, versus the guy who just kind of comes in. If you look, they're both kind of doing the same thing in terms of rigidity in training. It's like always here, always on time. The first guy's here. Like, regardless of how they approach that, like in their mindset, I think it's like, it's the fundamental building.
You can't be like, you know, sitting off between rounds or looking for rest rounds or chatting or like acting tired in between rounds as well, because like I think probably there are like belts to mindset as well, like so like the black belt mindset versus the white belt mindset. The white belt mindset is just like all over the place and like, you know, can't like tell their left hand from their right hand on the day of the competition. And then the black belt mindset goes in confident, I know I can do this, and like, you know, maybe even they're good enough to be like, that gold medal is my medal, like.
But I think there's something in body language there that you've explained as well there, you've touched on. I tell, like, when we're training the teenagers and the juniors, actually, from that age group, when they're like 10 up, and not really younger, and definitely not maybe if they're not mature enough to understand it as well. So more like with the guys, I say, when you're tired, the first thing you do when you feel exhausted is stand up, tie your belt, puff your chest out, and look like you're the freshest guy in the room. Fake it till you make it. Because teenagers are particularly bad for, like you just ask them to make their bed, right? That's what you do. Okay, time for another round. And even when they don't, aren't thinking that way, even when they're like going, you know, this is going to be great, they still manage to look miserable because they're teenagers, right? That's the way But we're always like, no, fake it till you make it. And what you want to do is you want to draw energy from your own posture and draw energy from your own way that you draw your breath in. Tell yourself something positive, and you want to suck energy out of your opponent after every scramble. So every time you have a scramble and you take your time getting up off the ground, your opponent goes, oh yeah, great, he's really tired. Even though they might be equally as exhausted or even more tired than you. So I'm like, fake it till you make it with your posture. And actually, that has even though you're faking it, it has an energizing effect on you. It's amazing the transformation that you can actually give yourself by going, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm
like,
gonna be okay.
If you think of the toughest people in the world, say special forces, for example, so our Army Rangers or the Navy SEALs, like, think about their hell weeks that they do, right? Imagine if they like finished whatever evolution they were doing and like lay on the ground and they were like, oh God, I'm so, like, they, you know, worst case scenario, whoever is the, well, I don't know what they call it, instructor, they'd be like, you're off the course, like,
Yeah. Good luck to you.
You know,
Yeah.
and lo and behold, they're able to get up
Yeah.
and like, you know, not look tired. Or they look tired and they get like picked on.
Yeah.
And they get more stuff to do. So like if they're, you know, I think that's the type of mindset we should be adopting. Like, and that carries over to every part of your life, because we're not just, well, I'm not just doing jiu-jitsu because I want to compete. Like, I'm doing jiu-jitsu because it makes my life better. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so that carries over to everything else. And
I definitely have that, like, there's no definable, and every time I tried to do it, like for like an Instagram post or a blog post, something that we put on the website, I was trying like define like how does like jiu-jitsu make your life better, like, or how does competition make your life better, and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of times I always look at it, I kind of, if I read it back, I look,
yeah,
if I read that, I go,
yeah,
saps. Like, but like, because like everything's purporting to do that, right? Yoga, Pilates, or whatever it is, aerobics, like everything is like, if you do this, your life will improve. And probably most of it is true, right? It's like, you know, vast majority of it. But when I try to like define like what it is, it always comes back. I always like try and like, because you get fitter, that's the same shit as everybody. But when I actually get it, it's always that kind of like discipline, focus, that willingness to get back up after you've done something difficult, that enjoying like the struggle of it. Like, that's my favorite thing about jiu-jitsu, to be honest. Like, I love doing cool sweeps and stuff like that, but I love it when like the rounds are like dogged and like really hard, and like you get up at like some of your rounds in there today with like Amanda or Peter and like that. And when I get up afterwards and I go, oh man.
Amanda and I just killed each other. It was great.
I watched it. Yeah, no, it was fun to watch.
I love that you can just like absolutely kill each other, but the love like that you have for your friends here is just like, it's just so normal to just like beat the absolute crap out of each other and then just give each other a hug and like move on to the next person. And then my last roll was with Peter. And at the end I was like, the steam clouds are coming off me. But it's just so like cathartic. And I just think jiu-jitsu has given me like so much confidence, like just in my everyday life.
It carries over.
So much confidence.
That willingness to kind of, like I'm really glad it found me. I didn't really find it. It found me, and I'm really glad because there's like it's lots of the kind of transformative experiences in your life. Like, you know, when you start having, like, I had my first child, you know, and like actually, and every subsequent child, to be honest, as well. But like little things like that, you know, when you first move into your first house, like, now I'm gonna start paying bills and I'm gonna be responsible and all that kind of stuff. But like, I can't point to any other thing other than like starting to train jiu-jitsu that actually changed my mind about things, that changed my mind about how I approached other things in my life. Yeah. So like how I approached like work, how I approach family, everything, how I approach my relationships with people. And people go, how could jiu-jitsu change that? I was like, it made me much more patient, much more calm with people, much more accepting of people.
It's hard to verbalize. It's hard to say why it changes things, but it made me like approach things much less impulsively, because if you're impulsive on the mats, you're like, most of the time you're done for, especially if you're rolling with somebody who's good. Like, so it's taught me that like you'll get to where you need to go with small changes. Like, you're not, you know, going to get comp ready in 1 week. Like, whereas and then it crosses over into everything else in life. Then, you know, you're not going to like whatever I'm doing in the other gym. Like, I'm not going to be doing handstand walks tomorrow, like, because I practiced really hard today. But I did all the work yesterday. Like, but I don't understand. I've done a whole session. And I like that about it. And like I say, I'm always trying to define it for other people, because like, you're obviously going to market the gym, market jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, and trying to sell it to other people. Like, look, what does this do for me? And I go, well, and I can never put it into words, even though I know that there is like transferable things, like, and again, we're talking about competition mindset more specifically, but like, but I mean,
it's a transferable skill, and regardless of whether you compete or don't compete, if you're aiming for those goals, if you're going for your next belt, if you're trying to just improve your cardio, your sweeps, or your guard position, or your retention, or whatever it is, I think
you've succeeded at something. And I think that the worst times for me in my, say, like, jiu-jitsu journey were when I was a bit aimless and I didn't have a goal. So for me personally, those goals are always competition goals. So I would say, well, I want to compete at, you know, the Irish Open in however many months. So that's going to be my goal now for the next month. And then all of a sudden, my mindset and everything is different, and I'm more interested in coming down training because I'm making like small steps towards that goal. Then if I'm not competing, it's, you know, well, I want to nail this takedown, or like I want to, you know, get my black belt or my brown belt or whatever. So I think you have to have a goal. I think training needs to be goal directed. It doesn't have to be competition, but you definitely need to have a plan, because otherwise you just sort of float in and out and you're like, oh, I'm not really working towards anything, you know. So competition is my personal thing.
But it could be anybody else.
It could be anything, yeah. And then I make my spreadsheet.
Let's leave it at spreadsheets. Because
Yeah.
I think we did more, like we had 10 minutes more than we were supposed to there. But that's awesome.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's all good.
I feel I get